Let's try this again. See if this is actually going to work this time. I don't know what happened, whether I had, if I was trying to stream to too many different places or what was going on. So right now I'm just going to YouTube. Sorry, everyone in Facebook and over on Rumble and all that stuff. Just going to YouTube now until I can figure this out. That's okay though, because I was getting kind of flustered with the blinking on my screen and all that crap. But Tiger, you made it back. John K. Bayou Prepper, and let me pull up the social stuff here. Make sure this is going to come up. Hopefully it is. There we go. Okay. At any rate, I was talking about in this last part, I was talking about these gas masks right here. If you weren't here for that, I apologize. I'll try to split these videos together, but this is the old Army surplus M10M that I have. This is the Mira top of the line Mira, which I can actually share this website now. Mira gas mask, which is it's up there in price. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is a very good mask. I believe Mongo was talking about, and I don't know if he's back here yet or not, but he was talking about the cheek weld and being able to shoulder a rifle. And that is one of the downfalls of this M10 or CM6M is because of the wide view of the visor. And depending on which side you shoot, like I'm left-handed, so I need to put the filter on my right-hand side. And you almost have to turn it like 45 degrees just to get in there to get a good sight picture of what you're doing. Whereas with the firearm, you've got that wide field of view. So it does pretty well for a firearm, which, like I was talking about, is why they, let me turn that crap off. Dang it. Which is why they use them in Europe for riots and things like that. Whereas let me go back here to the their website loads kind of slow. The 7M is more for rifle shooting, even though from what I've seen, it's still a bit of a challenge because I mean, you're wearing a gas mask. They're all going to be a challenge. Tiger said that gas mask ain't working with my beard and I ain't shaving for it. Yeah, I know. That is one of those downfalls. I'm not quite sure about this. I got a pretty airtight seal, but I'm not sure. I'd probably have to shave this off anyway. Not a big deal. Not like a full-fledged beard like I'm sure you do have, Tiger, but this wouldn't be a big deal. But anyway, this mask right here is better for shouldering a weapon because of that narrower profile. The thing I didn't like about this was just the goggle. I don't like that restricted view. Although, like I was talking about with this mask right here, it's really not that restricted. It's less restricted than you would think. So, but it really is sort of, your preference as far as which mask you would want. Like I said before, this mask right here, this visor right here, and I don't even know if let me see if I can put this on full screen and see if we can see this. I don't know that you can see the waves in this. They're really not noticeable until you put it on. And it's more so from this side right here that you kind of see, maybe look at my hat and see if it moves around. See it just kind of, it's really freaking hard to tell. But there is that little bit of, it makes it seem like part of the yard when I was walking around, I was going down a hill, and part of it is, it's like it's higher up than it actually is. So when I was going down the hill, thought I was stepping there, but I ended up stepping further. So it was kind of a shock. And if you're running around in a bug out situation, I don't know, that's going to be sort of dangerous and you're going to be slower than you should be. So the other mask, like I was talking about, this mask may actually be better for a situation like that. This one looks more like an alien kind of bug. This is the mask people think of when they think of preppers, right? The typical prepper doomsday mask. Let me see in the chat here. I got to figure out where to put this thing so I can just pop these up. But Bayou Prepper said, I've got the 7M. It's pretty comfortable, at least for me, using controlled shots with mine. With my rifle. Sorry. Oh, yeah, there it is. I thought it cut off. If I had to choose at this point, I would probably, the Prepared Beast sent it to me. They asked me to do a review on it, and I agreed. If I had it, my choice of which one to pick now, I would pick that one. Not to say this is a bad mask. It's just that right there, when you want to be mobile, when you want to move around, you want to be able to, when you're stepping down somewhere, you want to make sure that you're actually stepping down somewhere. So, what is the next comment here? Charlie Angel. How long will the filter be effective for? And that's a tough question. I'll get into these RZ masks here real quick, or in a second. But since we've got this question right here, I will go to the filters on the website here. And what these, let me close that up. These filters there's a few different types of filters. These filters, like I said in the beginning, I don't know if that was on this channel or not, or on this video or not. The other one froze up on me. But these filters will last 20 years sealed up in their packaging. They will last 20 years, which is I think regular filters last about 5 or 6 years. So these last way longer than that. They are a little bit more expensive. They're like $80. But when you think about the fact that they are 20-year shelf life, something that you can buy, and me at my age, maybe the last time I have to buy it. Hopefully not. Hopefully maybe I have to buy a couple more. But they last about 20 years. Now, as far as use, that's a tough one to answer because it really depends on the different agents that you're encountering. Right. These are CBRN filters, which are chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear, which basically are chemical agents, biological agents, radiological agents. And this list goes through all the different ones that they are, like cesium, cobalt, fallout from nuclear energy meltdowns, exposure to spent nuclear reactor waste, and radiation from nuclear fission. So a lot of different things. And I didn't put this link in the description, but I'll try to throw it in the chat right here. We'll see if YouTube actually lets me put it through. Nope, it's not going to let me put it through because it's too long. So, okay. Let me try it like this. I don't know if that's the actual link or not, but we'll find out. But as far as the shelf life or usage for one of these filters, it really depends on what type of situation and how strong the stuff is, whether you're talking about fallout, but it's probably between 8 hours and 24 hours. They talk about this filter being rated to 30 hours for mustard gas. But it just really depends. They even say on their website, when you're in a bug out situation, you're trying to get away from something, to make sure and have 2 per person for a day's worth of travel. So you're looking at 16 hours or something like that. Really depends on what the strength and what sort of toxin or what sort of agent is that you're trying to stop from breathing. So, also with the different filters, let me see if I can, let me make this a little bit smaller so you guys can, I guess I can't make it any smaller. But they've got a few different types of filters as well. So it doesn't have to be, just the big one right here, the real expensive $80 CBRN filter, the NBC 77. And by the way, NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical, it's basically the same thing as CBRN. CBRN is just it covers more than just your basic NBC filter. So, I am not I'm not the filter guy here either. I just know what I know. I know there's a lot of guys out there that know a whole lot more about this stuff than me. That is not my cup of tea, but I have done quite a bit of research on this stuff. But they do have, like this one right here, a smoke escape respirator. So if you are, say it's an earthquake or something happened, tornado. We just had a tornado warning here today, and I probably got like 3 drops of rain during the whole tornado warning. But say your house is on fire or something like that, and you have to go back in and get the kids or do something. Something like this would be beneficial, although it is sold out. The 40 millimeter filter for protection against common elements. Not quite sure what common elements are, but I suppose I could click that and read it, but I'm not going to. And then this one right here, this is the one I am going to click because this is something that, and this is $160, but this is for 6 filters. So you've got both filters on each side. You've got, you could do that 3 times, but this is basically that pandemic type. I'm kind of shocked that I didn't see more of these people driving around in their cars, wearing their gas masks during the pandemic. But you think about it, and it is something I think that would be beneficial for preppers, because whether it was a pandemic, whatever it was, it is something that you just never know when the next one or something like this does happen. And if it's something that is going to be worse than what this one was. Maybe it is something that does live up to the expectations of what everybody thought this one was. So just an interesting filter. So it doesn't have to be, my whole point, doesn't have to be that big, huge one. But it, there's plenty of different kinds. Also, just the 40 millimeter NATO threading, that's not just Mira either. There's a bunch of different places that sell different filters. Mira is just one of those companies that I think is top of the line and really puts out good, high quality products. And when you're talking about this NBC filter, it's got a 20-year shelf life, I think it's just fantastic. Also, they do have hazmat suits, and I don't have much. I haven't done much with actual hazmat suits. Lisa and I have done videos on the past about PPE and putting on personal protective equipment. That is nothing. What we did is nothing compared to what one of these suits will do. And it's more expensive. It's definitely more expensive than just a couple of little gowns, but just a lot of cool stuff. If that's something that you're concerned about. One more thing before I move on to the RZ masks. I want to talk about those because those are low cost and really cool, just common use masks. But for preppers, I think, you think about who this might be useful for, who it might not be. I think a lot of us preppers don't have gas masks and things like that. Here, real quick, Brandon said gas mask was overkill for the pandemic, but I was afraid to wear my half face respirator with P100 filters prior to having more information. Yeah, that's the thing. At the very beginning, we didn't know a damn thing about what was going on and how quickly it was going to spread and all that stuff. So I agree that a full-fledged gas mask is overkill, but I am surprised I didn't see these masked Nazis riding around in their cars with a gas mask or even just the respirator. And I can talk about those a little bit too, but yeah, I am surprised I didn't see that. At the same time as that though, that while the gas mask may be overkill, the bandanas and the face coverings we now know was a bunch of BS. So, there's that too. But you just never know what the next pandemic, what something could happen that really is, as bad as we thought maybe this could be. And like Brandon just said, in the very beginning of something like this, you have no idea what it's going to do. And you've got to listen to the World Health Organization and all those yahoos and try to get the best information you can. But the truth is a lot of them, well, I think they probably knew more than they let on, but a lot of them didn't even know as well. So, now this is frozen up. This is not going well tonight. Lots of paint respirator action. He was talking about I'm not sure if that was a comment to somebody else or you're talking about paint respirators, but or the pandemic. But yeah, there are those options available as well. I'm not too versed on the paint respirator. I know that, let me see, I've got this article from The Prepared that talks about one of these respirators right here. And it's basically something you can get from Home Depot, Walmart. I don't know what exactly this gets. I know it takes these filters right here. Let me see if it says right here what they actually filter out. Probably going to be very vague. When hazardous waste handling, paint preparation, pesticide application, petrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, powder coating. So a lot of different, a lot of different things that one of these RZ masks, it wouldn't get because of, I think it's got to be water-based for one of these, the chemicals and things like that. That's what one of these would be pretty good for. But when you're talking about nuclear stuff, you're not talking about one of these little things right here. That's not going to do the job. Plus, it's not a whole face respirator either, like the gas masks are. Charlie just said, definitely useful in a, let me pull this up here, definitely useful in an event of a gas attack or get out safely. Yeah. Yeah, and it's one of those things, sorry, I was reading some stuff here. One of those things that it's really a better than nothing type thing. Whoops, brought that back up. And that's what I was talking about on the, or I was talking, somebody made a comment on on the locals group that I did about this, this mask right here and the filters inside, sort of a better than nothing. Whoops. Sort of a better than nothing type thing, even though they're 25, 30 years old. If I had nothing else, I'm throwing this sucker on and crossing my fingers that it's going to do the job. Whereas if I'm like inside somewhere safe and I'm going out somewhere, I'm not throwing that thing on with 35-year-old, even if they're sealed or not. 35-year-old filters, not going to happen. I'll stay inside. Yeah, it's one of those things like I was talking about with preppers. It really depends. I mean, a lot of preppers I don't think necessarily have them, or it's on the list. But like me, I've never had one this quality right here before of this Mira, because there are different things in preparedness that I can spend, that I need to spend more money on than just a gas mask. Although, just like water filters, it's one of those things, if you ever need it, you're going to be glad you have it. So it is one of those things. They have the military surplus. If you can get a military surplus mask and it's got the 40 millimeter NATO threading, some of you out there may know that if those are actually, if they actually make those or not. Mongo said, would you trust 35-year-old rubber? Not really, no. I mean, it does... It does feel okay. I mean, you can't see any cracks, no visible cracks. It doesn't feel hard or anything. But yeah, just the fact that it's 35-year-old rubber, there could very well be cracks, hairline cracks you can't even see. Or it could, you're in some sort of substances, because there are, the masks themselves can only withstand some of these different substances for a certain amount of time too. So it's not like you just rinse off a mask and it's good to go after that. So this mask may break down quicker than a newer mask. So it's just that, that catch-22 type thing is, it's a better than nothing, but how good is it? How good is it going to be really? So, but again, like I said, if you can get one of these military surplus masks, and it does have the 40 millimeter NATO threading where you can get those brand new filters that go into them. I think that would be something that's a little bit cheaper than this one. Then I think that probably would be good. But it really depends on where you are in your preparedness when it comes to buying a gas mask or not. If you have things to do like buying food and doing other things, the gas mask is probably going to be a little bit lower on your list. And that's exactly why I haven't really had one because it is sort of lower on my list. There are other things that I want to get done as far as preparedness is concerned that are more likely to happen than me needing a gas mask for, nuclear weapons, I suppose some sorts of natural disasters, earthquakes. If you're in a rescue type situation, I could see them being useful. If you are in an urban area, I think that probably is something that you probably should put high on your list, because the odds are if something does kick off, your first thing is going to be bugging out, right? That is, it's either hunkering down, fortifying where you are and locking down and crossing your fingers, or it's getting the heck out of there as long as you've got a place to go. So in an urban situation, you think of 9/11, things like that as well. That may be something that you do need and you do need to think about, possibly even a suburban area, because the urban area, those people are going to be eventually starting to spread out and get out of there, especially if it's something big. Now, if it's a nuke in an urban area, probably toast. It depends on the city, I guess, but probably toast. But I think in an urban area, a gas mask would probably definitely be in my bug out bag, because it is a bug out situation is really, it's really high probability in an urban situation. Whereas where I am right now, bugging out, not something real immediate, I suppose. So let me see. I'm reading a couple of the comments here, but Tiger said in here, got to read this. 3M weather adhesive glue is called Gorilla Shot. Sticks to anything. I must have jumped in right in the middle of a conversation. I do that quite a bit. But the last one I wanted to talk about here on these masks is the RZ masks. And I've had these for forever. Let me pull this microphone over here. I've used these quite a bit. They have a few different types, and I'll pull up the website. But these are the mesh masks. These are the M2s. Let me pull this out of the way. Also, with this mirror safety mask, you get some kick-ass stickers too. So those are pretty cool. And this sheet that actually does tell you what some of the specs about what the filters will do. Now, also on the filters, they do have a chart, a formula to figure out how long one of these filters is going to last, depending on what the chemical agent is. And there is a way to figure out how long one of these is going to last. Too much math for me. So, but you can go to their website and they have a Q&A section, and they have a question on there, which goes through that little chart right there. But anyway, these RZ masks, these are pretty cool. I like these I use this for everything, not necessarily this one. I've got another one, but a neoprene one, but I use these for everything, because I've got the chicken coop. We've got the horse poop. I'm throwing around horse poop, and on a windy day, it's absolutely terrible. The chicken coop, I just cannot stand getting in there and doing that stuff, because it's just chicken poop is horrible. Almost as bad as human poop. But these masks right here come with this inner activated carbon filters, and it comes, when you buy one, it comes with an extra one as well. And it fits on your face. Let me pull over to this shot right here, and then I'll pull up the website. But it fits on your face fairly easily. It's got this nose clamp right here, which you can bend and adjust to your nose. And then it just goes on, if you can put it on right, and covers your face like that. And it's really breathable. It's really comfortable. I have had, you've got to get it lined up exactly right if you have glasses on, it's sunglasses or something, but I have had issues with that. But it's just a really good mask for really, really low cost particulates, maybe a little bit of smoke. It's not going to handle, if you're in the middle of a fire, this little mask isn't going to work. But if it is, you've got a fire nearby and you're getting all sorts of soot and all that, it will help with that. In a bug out situation, something like this would be pretty good too. One, it keeps you a little bit warm, a little bit of concealment, a little bit of camouflage. And if it is a situation where it's a natural disaster, dirty bomb, something like that, dirty bomb really, I don't know that this is going to cut it too much, but any little bit helps. Let me see if I've got this. Yeah, here's the website right here. So the RZ website, these are affordable masks, and that's why I say I recommend them, because they are really affordable masks. And they've got a few different kinds. They've got N95 masks and NOISH approved. They've got the neoprene mask right here, which is just the M1 is just the neoprene, which is not as breathable. The M2 is the mesh mask. That's the one I was just showing you right there. And the 2.5 has got, I'll show you this real quick. It's got 2 straps on it to hold onto your head better. Because this mask right here, as you noticed, it's got the one thing, as I'm driving around on the tractor or whatever, it falls off your face, and it is kind of a pain. So that M2.5 is a little bit better for that. If you're in a bug out situation, something like that, I think this mask would do pretty well. It says here, it's got some of the specs here somewhere. Filters down to 0.1 micron. All the particulates down to 0.1 micron. It doesn't have a lot of the information. I can't remember what article it was I was reading, but it really does have quite a bit of information about what exactly this will do. But this, during the beginning of the pandemic, Brandon was talking about that. During the beginning of the pandemic, this is what I was wearing. My mesh one my neoprene one right here. I ended up losing it because I left it somewhere. But for $34, and on Amazon, they're even cheaper. I got this little yellow one right here. And this one is basically, it's for Lisa out in the barn and everything. This yellow one on Amazon, for some reason, was $8. I don't know if it's because it's yellow and nobody wants a yellow one. But it was a really good deal. This one on Amazon, I believe, was like $20. So I don't know. You can probably get a better deal on Amazon. Let me do a search real quick here and see what they have. Of course, you're going to be a pain in the butt. RZ mask. So $19 to $46. And this is the one that I got the other day. So if I choose a yellow one, $29. I don't know why I got such a good deal the other day, but I did. At any rate, for $30, it's just a really cool mask. And the price, if I can get back to this website right here, the price for filters, if I can find them here, replacement filters, is pretty decent as well. And I believe these filters last, and these are the premium flow. I just want the standard. Premium airflow just means it's a little bit easier to breathe for you. But 3 filters is $8. And they last, I want to say like 60 hours. See if it says here. I know it said somewhere, and I don't know where the hell it said it, but I believe they last about 60 hours. So, pretty decent mask for just anytime you have to replace it. And that 60 hours basically is, let me put this back over here. That 60 hours is basically how concentrated is the crap that you're breathing in. And the same thing goes with all of these different filters. How concentrated is that crap that you're breathing in? It's the same exact thing with all of these filters. The same exact thing when you're thinking about water filters. You've got the low cost Sawyer Minis, right? The Live Straws. Those are going to get certain things. Those are going to get the microorganisms, the Cryptosporidium, the Giardia, things like that. Then you've got maybe the higher ups with the activated carbon filters, the catadines, the ones that are going to get some of the chemicals, some of the pesticides, viruses, things like that. those are going to be more expensive, but those are the filters you would need to get if you're concerned about those types of things. That Sawyer's not going to cut it. This RZ mask is not going to cut it if you're worried about mustard gas. It might help you if you're trying to get through a riot or something like that, or get out of an urban area, but it's not going to give you full protection. And then you've got the top of the line water filters, like the reverse osmosis water filters, or what the Big Berkeys, what they say. There's, you could tell I've got my bones with Big Berkey, but what they say they're supposed to do, they're the top of the line water filters that are going to get just about everything, but none of them get everything. And they even say that on Mira's website, that this will get, this is the big boy of all the filters, but it doesn't mean that you can, that it's going to get everything. Plus, when you think about a nuclear bomb, you've got the radiation that I think it's the gamma rays and alpha rays. And I don't think, I'm pretty positive that regardless what sort of hazmat suit on, regardless what sort of mask you have on, not going to do anything about that. What it's going to protect you against is the fallout. And with these filters, it's going to be just about everything with that fallout. But those gamma rays and stuff, not going to do a dang thing for that. But it's sort of an analogy I like to use, is that water filter thing, because it is the same thing. It's just as confusing as getting the right water filter, because to get the right water filter, you've got to know exactly what you're going to be, where you're going to be using that filter. And it's a little bit easier with a water filter than it is a mask, because you may live in a suburban area, your bug out route, which direction, where those water sources are. You can get a fairly good idea about what's in those water sources. And then from there, you can get the type of water filter that you would need. Same thing sort of applies to a gas mask. If you think that the next pandemic is more likely than a nuclear war, or if you see all this crap going on with China and Russia and Ukraine, and I mean, who knows if something happens in Ukraine and then all the clouds and fallout and all that crap, I don't see it making it all the way over here. We're still alive after Fukushima. So, but you never know. If that is something that you feel like is a concern, then you would want to go with something bigger. If it is something that you're more worried about, let's say you're in California or somewhere near the New Madrid Fault, and you're worried about something like that, an earthquake happening, which could affect gas lines, power lines, all sorts of different things. Maybe a mask that is going to get those types of contaminants is more important than something that is going to get that nuclear fallout. Although a CBRN mask is going to get everything that you would get in some sort of situation like I was just talking about with an earthquake, because it is that all-encompassing, all-in-one type thing. So it's really hard to read these comments here with the way this is set up, but and I don't know if you guys are talking to each other. If you've got a comment for me, maybe capitalize it so it sticks out to me a little bit. Otherwise, I'm going to end up jumping into one of your conversations again, and then not knowing what you guys are talking about. At any rate, what I wanted to do now, before I get into this next part right here, I wanted to mention over at the SHTF shop, I wanted to just mention to everybody, it's a great way to help support the show. Over at the SHTF shop, I've got long-term food storage stuff. I'm working on t-shirts. I sort of put t-shirts on the back burner recently, although I do have a few designs over there. But I am going to be working on more of those in the future. I just wanted to get going on YouTube and start doing more videos, so I sort of stopped doing that over there. But I also have Legacy Foods. We sell some Legacy Food storage products, a lot of different types. If you're in the market for long-term foods, get a hold of me. I can set you up, get you the best deal possible, let you know exactly what you might want or what you might need. You can tell me what you want, and we can get the best deal possible over there. But if you get a chance, head over to the shtfshop.com, check that out. And if it is something that you are in the market for, get a hold of me. And we will kind of go over how much you might need, what the best deal could be. If you get a hold of me directly, I might even be able to hook you up with a better price. Wink, wink. I'm not supposed to say that publicly, but I just did. Yeah, the SHTF shop helps support the show. We both get something out of it, and it just helps me continue to do what I'm doing right now. So with that, I wanted to talk about a couple of articles that I saw about preparing for an economic collapse. And I think it's like this article right here. I don't want to talk too much crap about articles, but when I see stuff like this, it's just a little bit, I don't know, I don't want to say ridiculous because they're fairly good points for the most part, but they're points that you could use for name your disaster scenario, right? Whatever different type of situation you're talking about, you could talk about these exact same 5 points, and this is how you prepare for this. This is how you survive that. This is how you survive that. So I've got another one that goes into a little bit more detail about these things, but in this one, it's talking about stockpiling essentials. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. I think it goes a lot deeper into that as far as you better start now and start building things up because it just seems like things are ratcheting up and ratcheting up the longer we go into this stuff. Now, there have been times when it sort of died down a little bit, but I still think I hear a lot more people talking about how a recession is likely, even though I think we're in one already. But they're talking about how a mild recession is likely, whereas a few months ago, they're talking about how it's not likely. And now it just seems like it's sort of that rhetoric is ramping up a little bit. And you see all the crap going on with the government and the spending and all that. It just seems like, something could be, right around the corner at the drop of a hat. All of a sudden something happens and I don't want to be unprepared for something like that. But learn self-sufficiency skills. I think that's a general preparedness thing, right? I mean, learn how to be self-sufficient. That in itself is preparedness. Learn to live without help from the outside, without outside resources, without having to depend on somebody else. That is preparedness. Now, we can't be 100% self-sustainable, self-sufficient. There's very few people that probably can. Even like, I'm sure a lot of you watch Doug and Stacy. Even them, as much as they do on their own, they are not 100% self-sufficient. They do as much as they can, but they are not 100% self-sufficient. Now, there are probably a couple guys living out in the wilderness of Oregon or somewhere that completely live off the grid, haven't talked to society in years. Maybe there's a couple of those people, but for the most part, that's not us. And we can't be 100% self-sufficient, nor do most of us want to be 100% self-sufficient. So at any rate, that one is sort of a blanket sort of statement to me. Build a community is another one that is just a blanket preparedness statement. But actually, this is a good point for when you're talking about an economic collapse, when you're talking about economic turndown, because you are going to need people to help you out. It could be a bartering situation. It could be you bartering your skills. So the more people you know, the more connections you've made, the more people are going to say, hey, I need this done. I'll bet you I can get a hold of Dale or somebody and get this done and give them, a couple dozen eggs or something like that. And you can barter your skills. So the more community you have, the more in your network that you have, the better that, the more opportunities you're going to give yourself when something does get bad. Protect your assets. Again, that is, I guess that's not a blanket statement on preparedness, but during an economic collapse, assets such as cash, stocks, bonds may become worthless. It's important to protect your assets by investing in intangibles, which is true. Gold and silver, hear about it all the time. Easier said than done when it comes to gold. But I think also tangible assets are food storage. When it comes to preparedness, I think tangible assets are food storage or the supplies for food storage. Say it's a canning kit, it's a All-American, the canner, All-American canner, things like that. Those are hard assets that I think would benefit you in a situation like that. But the food storage, gold and silver, I get that. You want to protect your wealth. But at the same time, you want to be able to get through some sort of economic crisis as well. And I think that goes to having the food, because you think about an economic crisis. You've got, probably you're looking at maybe a job loss. You're looking at a lot of companies shutting down, banks closing left and right these days. You've got all of those things happening. So food in itself could be a valuable commodity just for you, and not necessarily for the people that didn't have the foresight to go get it. But if you have 6 months, a year's worth of food stored, right? You've got that time frame where you can take that little bit of money you have and pay the electric bill or pay these other bills, because you don't have to worry about putting food on the table for Junior and your daughter or whoever. I can't think of a girl name right now. Junior and Mary. I don't know if Mary works or not. Doesn't sound like a little girl name. But you don't have to worry about putting food on the table. You can pay the light bills. You can pay the mortgage. That's going to be the big one. And that's a big one for a lot of us, me included, is the banks aren't, because we get into some sort of financial crisis, whether it's a complete collapse or not, the banks aren't going to care. The banks are going to come take their stuff, just like they did in the Great Depression. They are going to come take their stuff. What did a nurse for? I need bigger text. I've got old man eyes. Nurse for you too. Have two family members just go. Oh, you just had two family members just let go due to no work. Yeah. And I think that is something that is, especially when you think about the AI and things like that, I think that is something that could be coming down the pipe. If there are financial troubles, if people aren't spending because they don't have the money to spend, those businesses are going to start slowing down. And that means more jobs that aren't going to be available. And again, there's a bunch of different can of worms I can go down as far as the jobs market and the government saying that their jobs numbers look great. Okay. But at any rate, I spent way too much damn time on this one article. What I did want to talk about was this article, Preparing for an Economic Collapse. Come on, man. Man, I sound like Joe Biden. Come on, man.
If Armageddon.
Oh, this one.
True international effort to pressure.
That's usually what I sound like right there. So I'll go through a couple of these. I'm not going to go through a lot of this because I'm already running a little bit longer than I wanted to. But an economic collapse. Let me pull this on full screen here. An economic collapse. There we go. While the mainstream media the mainstream media propagandists continue to push the lie of a robust recovery, like they do all the time. Hey, everything's fine. Don't believe your eyes. The fact is, we're in some serious fiscal trouble. Economies around the world are crashing. Countries are drowning in record amounts of debt, and governments continue to pile on new debt like there's no tomorrow. And that is very true. We tend to look at this like a United States thing. But this is happening all over the place. I was watching a video the other day. I think her name is Survival Lily on YouTube. She is Austria or somewhere around that. And she was talking about the economy in Germany. And they've got massive inflation as well over there. So it's not just an American thing. This is happening all over the place. But it is something that I think we ought to just, at the very least, maybe nothing does happen, but it is something that I think at the very least we need to keep our head outs for. I don't want to go through what is an economic collapse because I think we all know what an economic collapse is. But they do talk about in this article, and I do have this link to in the description, about different times in history where collapses have happened. They talk about in Rome in 176 BC, they experienced a severe financial crisis that eventually led to massive inflation and debasement of the currency. The government's response to this crisis was to issue more coins to produce more coins with decreased silver content, which is sort of funny because just recently they've talked about decreasing the amount of copper in coins and everything. But this is two different situations because we just completely went away from basing our money on any sort of precious metal, the gold standard, things like that. So, I mean, we're so far past a situation like that it doesn't even matter. But the same sort of principles why Rome, their economy collapsed, the same sort of principles, the lack of responsibility, the willy-nilly spending, all those different things led to that. Let me see. What's the next one? Another one, a significant one, was the Great Depression. We all know about the Great Depression, triggered by the stock market crash in 1929. Businesses failed, banks collapsed, and unemployment soared to unprecedented levels. Like I was just talking about, unemployment could become a huge factor. So investing in gold and silver is one thing, but investing in those things, that food storage and the things that might help you get through some of that stuff. And heck, that even includes weapons and ammunition. I mean, just to be quite frank. The next one here, in 97, the Asian financial crisis rocked Southeast Asia, causing widespread economic instability and social unrest, which is another thing to consider. You've got the crime rates that are probably going to start skyrocketing. You've got a lot of different things that could happen because of a financial collapse, financial crisis, whatever it is. And that's what I was saying. I don't know if it was the beginning of this video or the video I did that crashed on me a while back. But when I was talking about that article, and you just can't boil it down to a few different bullet points how to survive something, because there are so many different variables to how something unfolds. So many different variables to what happens before the big one hits, whatever that big one may be. There's so many different variables that go on during that whole situation. And there's so many different variables after the situation and the recovery period. There's variables in as far as where your location is and what sorts of things are happening. So it's really just tough to say, this is what you need to do here, this is what you need to do there, and this is what you need to do here. It's just impossible to even go that route. Next, he talks about in here, are we headed towards a collapse? And I thought, and I'm not going to go through this whole article, I don't have time for that, but I thought this was interesting when he showed our debt here. I remember when I first got interested in preparedness and I started doing stuff online, we were at $17 trillion in debt. We're about to, the U.S. national debt surpasses $31 trillion, so 31.1. And Janet Yellen the other day too had talked about this magical $50 trillion number, right? And she was talking about it's completely sustainable to go over $50 trillion. And experts, what it says here about that is over the next 10 years, which is nothing, experts expected to balloon over $50 trillion. So there's no stopping. There's no fiscal responsibility. There's no anything with all this stuff going on. It's status quo, and we're going to continue to do what we do. A couple of these points here. Household debt increased at the fastest pace in 15 years, partially due to huge increases in credit card usage and mortgage balances. A lot of younger people use credit cards for freaking everything. And on top of that, with the pandemic and all of these other things going on, there was a point where when people couldn't go to work and do those things, there was a point where people had no other choice but to put things on credit. So I sort of understand why that is. Real quick, I don't know what this comment is, but it says my name at the beginning. So I'm going to read it here. Jammer Waste WV Dale, thoughts on how people will act this time around compared to the Great Depression? Morally, I mean, that is a fantastic question because back then, you think about how, that was a fantastic question. Back then, society wasn't at each other's throats and so pitched against each other like they are these days. Society, I think, and maybe this is just my myopic kind of view of the way things were back then, but they were more willing to help each other out. When the neighborhoods and families were more together than these days. Whereas these days, if you live in the suburbs, shoot, even out here where I live, I probably talked to, and I'm not super rural. I've got neighbors. They're a little bit far away, but they're not so far away I can't talk to them. But I probably talked to 2 or 3 of them. But back in the day, it probably was that. You had potlucks, you had things like that going on where people would actually help each other out. And I believe there were even situations like that where they would get together and make some sort of, I can't remember what it was called. I'm drawing a blank here, but it would be some sort of a potluck type situation where they would feed people. These days, I know there would be churches doing things like that. I know there would be organizations set up to try to help as much as possible, but I just don't think that would happen as much. And then on the bad side of things, that criminal activity, I think that would be even worse. You look at the way society is these days compared to the way it was 30, 40 years ago. It's really, it's on an everyday basis, on a regular day, things are bad. When things get that bad and, people feel entitled the way people feel entitled to these days in the United States, they're going to feel justified in going and getting something. And that is, I think, a product of where we are as Americans and even westernized countries, because we feel entitled to all this stuff. Life has been so good here, and we've had basically everything we've wanted in our lifetimes. We've seen things get really great as far as technology is concerned, and really bad as far as society is concerned for the most part, other than the racial stuff and the country growing. That's gotten fantastic, but it's fallen apart otherwise, society-wise. But you think back to back then where there was that crime and that violence, but it wasn't, anything like it is these days. So I definitely think it could be far worse than what it was back then at that point. Plus the fact, not even just the difference in society these days, but the fact that the government, and we've grown so big, and so everything has just gotten so large scale, the sort of like the bigger you are, the harder you fall type situation, right? We've gotten so big now, whereas back then we were sort of just getting our feet wet as far as a country, right after the First World War, right before the Second World War, but wasn't anything like it is now. And the spending that we do around the world, that's another thing as far as an economic collapse goes. It wouldn't, with things being so globally these days, I don't know that it would just be us. And I think that other countries could affect what our economy is doing. So it's all sort of intertwined with each other. And that just could be, there's just massive room for something to go really bad. Now, I don't know. I'm not one of these economists that are behind the scenes pulling the strings and figuring out all the different things they do. You hear from some people talking about how, government, the way government handles money is different than business, this and that. I don't know. I'm not an economist. I know my budget and I know what my credit cards, and I know how to pay my bills. And you would think that a government that knew how to do that as well would be good, but evidently that doesn't matter too much. We just need to raise the debt ceiling and keep on spending. That's the way to get out of this stuff. At any rate, back to this article real quick, and then I'm going to get out of here. Like I said, I'm not going to go through this whole thing. Credit card balances rose more than 15% in 2021, which was right after the pandemic and everything. Where does it say? Somewhere in here it talked about the unfunded liabilities and all that stuff. The number is much higher than 30 trillion. Oh, here it is right here. Estimates put the real number somewhere between 222 and 250 trillion when you factor in unfunded liabilities like Social Security, Medicare, and government pension plans and all those different things. So I just don't see how something isn't inevitable at some point. Does that mean it happens this year? I don't know. Something could happen this year. Like 2008 was a big deal for a lot of people. Didn't really affect me much. Could be something like that. Even the Depression affected quite a few people, but it didn't affect everybody. Usually the people that, were on top and had good jobs and stuff like that, they didn't get affected much, but it didn't affect everybody. So it's one of those variables. Like I said, the scale, the magnitude of how something goes down. If it continues going the route that it's going, at the very least, it's going to be a pain in the butt to pay your bills for a lot of people. Pay your bills, get food at the grocery store. It frustrates me every time I go to the store now because things are so expensive, and they're a little bit less expensive than they were a year ago, but they're still more expensive than they were 2 years ago or 6 months ago. And it's really frustrating. And I think that's how inflation works, is they push it way up And then you sort of get mad about that, but you get used to it. And that way, when it goes down a little bit, like the CPI that just came out, went down a little bit. So we're headed in the right direction, right? Still freaking high. But when those prices come down a little bit, you feel that, okay, that's a little bit better. But it's still that much more higher than it was a year ago. Gas prices is something I think about. I went and saw the other day, it was $3.21 at the gas pump. And I thought, wow, I better get some gas while it's that low. And then, but you think about it because it was so high and you're like, hey, it's really low. But when you think about it, it was close to $2 a gallon not long ago. So, I mean, we just get accustomed to it. It's the frog in the boiling pot of water. You know, eventually you get used to the fact that the water is hotter than hell and your skin is blistering, but it doesn't feel too bad. I'm still okay. At any rate, I think, the whole economic crisis thing is something that I think there are going to be hard times ahead. I don't know exactly what that looks like this coming year and even the next 2 years or so, because I just don't. There's got to be at some point something's got to give, right? You would think. Of course, I've been saying that for 10 years, so. I mean, who knows? But at some point, something's got to give, whether it completely changes, everything gets turned around, or everything just goes to crap. Maybe it goes to crap in China and, India or somewhere else, and that leads us to a domino effect. Maybe Europe starts to fall apart, and that leads to a domino effect. I mean, I just don't know, but I know that it just doesn't seem sustainable to me. And maybe that is my skeptical brain, my prepper brain that is just waiting for this stuff to happen. But that's one of those things. I'm just preparing as much as I can to, withstand as much as possible a situation like that. And if it does get bad, that's the one good thing about preparedness. We think about these disaster scenarios and they sort of overlap. If things do get bad and you've got the crime and violence and things like that, then by preparing for something like this and preparing generally, you're sort of got your bases covered a little bit for that as well. So just something that I'm concerned about. A couple comments if you guys have any, and then I'm going to get out of here. We're way over an hour now, and you count in the fiasco I had at the beginning. I don't know what caused that. It must have been that I was trying to do too much here, streaming to too many different places, and it caused my computer to brain fart on me. At any rate, like I said, tomorrow night, I'm going to have the local prepper on. It's going to be a really cool show. We're going to talk about preparedness planning, different types of different preparedness plans you'll have to have. I mean, how people are different, basically. The things that I do are going to be different than the things that you do. The things that you're going to need to do. Financially, age-wise, all sorts of different things. Family makeup, different things that we need to do in preparedness. We're also going to talk about some bags because bags are just kind of fun to talk about. It's one of those prepper things that we're always looking into. Tiger said, Dale, I couldn't find the Sunday podcast. Yeah, we weren't able to do it. Brian had a software malfunction. And it wasn't his melon this time. He actually had his computer just completely went to crap on him, and we weren't be able to do the show. I don't think we're going to be able to do it this Sunday as well because it's Mother's Day, and I've got some stuff that I need to do with Lisa, and family comes first before videos anyway. So, but I will update everyone. Over on Locals, the Locals account, the Survivalist Prepper on Locals, I try to give everybody an update over there. I will try to also put it here in the community tab. I've been trying to do a little bit more in the community tab here. Sometimes I forget about it though, because it's YouTube and you don't think about posting something on YouTube. But I will try to do that. But yes, Sunday show might not be this week, but we will be back next week. Charlie Angel said, thanks, Dale. Very informative. Yeah, sorry. This was one of my, one of my more scatterbrain shows. I'll just put it that way. I didn't want to just disappear and get all frustrated and disappear, but at any rate, tomorrow night is going to be much better. I'm going to have those actually scripted. Thursday night shows are going to be always going to be better because I'm going to actually have them scripted out, have my talking points put out, make sure my stuff works right. But these impromptu shows, you never know what you're going to get. So, Jammer WV, I'll tell Lisa you said that. Happy Mother's Day. Yes, and to all of you out there, mothers out there, happy Mother's Day. Any of you husbands out there, hope you guys are doing stuff with your wives as well, even though they're not your mother. But if you're like me, your best bet is just to do something. So at any rate, appreciate you all joining in tonight. I am going to get out of here. We'll see you tomorrow night with Local Prepper. Should be a blast.